Hey, look who's talking today. I've got my grandma. She's here today, and we're going to be talking about what life was like back at a time that none of us can remember. And today we're going to have a nice conversation. We're going to talk about how things are different from now compared to how they were when we were, her age, which none of us were. So let's get to talking. This is my grandma. Grandma, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
So tell us a little bit about where you came from, what was your life like growing up as a child in America?
Well, I was raised on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, right on Lake Superior, which is very cold. And one of my earliest memories is that there was an ice house across the road from our house. And the horses had big sleds that they carried the ice from the lake up to the ice house, and then when people ordered ice delivered, they loaded it out of a big wagon and rode around town and dropped it off at different people's homes.
And so that was before refrigeration and everything. That was back when we were using ice chests.
That was about, they called it an ice box.
Oh, okay. Ice box.
And you put the ice in the top part of the box, and it would, as it melted, the water would go underneath into a pan, which had to be emptied every day. One of my jobs.
I bet. What was that something you do? You just do that every day, just go and empty it all out?
Yes. Uh-huh.
They would give that chore to guys and girls? It didn't matter?
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, whoever happened to be needing some ice, they would usually check it.
Yeah.
So, but one of my other memories, though, was about 1935, I would say, otherwise I wouldn't remember it, was when people had to go out and crank up the car.
Cranking the cars?
They had to crank the car to get the motor started.
Oh, wow. But back then, that was like Model A, Model T, and they'd be out there. How long would it take to start, would you say?
Oh, sometimes it would just take a few minutes, but if the car was really cold, it might take quite a while.
See, but that right there, even just saying it takes a few minutes, nowadays people can't wait seconds.
Right.
They're so impatient. That's pretty amazing to think that, back then it was, oh my gosh, it's going to take a minute for this to work. No big deal.
Right.
Nowadays people would lose their minds.
That's right. We used to think it was, that it was great just to be able to go for a ride in a car.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. So when you were a kid, do you remember a time when you guys didn't have cars?
We did not have a car.
Oh, okay.
My grandmother had a car, and my uncle would come down and usually take us for a ride, or maybe to the store or whatever we needed.
Wow.
So
did you guys use so when you weren't getting rides, did you guys have horses or anything, or just?
We didn't have horses, no.
You just walked?
We walked, and it was quite a long walk, but everybody walked.
Yeah.
He either walked or stayed home.
See? And that's probably also being in a small town type thing.
Right.
Because how big was the town that you grew up in?
Well, at that time, I'd say about 15,000 people.
Oh, wow.
This was the largest town in the Upper Peninsula.
Dang.
It was the county seat, and, a lot of business took place there. Earlier, though, up in the copper country, Calumet, and those places, they had a lot of population because of the mines.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and people came from, like the Scandinavian countries, and Norway, Sweden, Finland.
Wow, so there's a lot of European up there.
Yeah, and Italian.
Wow.
Somebody had to fix the spaghetti.
Yeah, I guess so. I love spaghetti. Probably one of my favorite dishes. I just like Italian food in general, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I like the spaghetti, too. And let's see.
So what about, like, for instance, let's say, like, when you were growing up, what's, like, one of the best memories you have from your childhood?
How early of childhood?
Whatever, as early back as you can remember.
Well, we used to really love it when my grandma came.
Yeah.
Yeah, she always brought extra stuff that my parents couldn't afford, like oranges and bananas and stuff like that. And they usually came down in a taxi, but then later on they got a big old car that my uncle would drive. And at one time, he had a big truck, a dump truck.
Oh, wow.
And he'd pile all of the kids, with my cousins and us, maybe be 10 or 15 kids in the back, and we would go swimming.
Oh, wow. In the back of the dump truck?
No, but he would drive us to the pool, and then my mother would come out later, and she would have a picnic, picnic provisions for all of us. Might be 10 people, might be 15. And we really enjoyed that. Our summers were very short, July and August.
Oh, yeah, I bet, especially up in Michigan.
Yeah. So, and my grandmother, she always made homemade bread. We didn't lack for food. We had really good stuff.
See, that's good. So do you remember, like, back, like, with the Great Depression and everything like that? Like, how was that?
Well, I was born in 1930, and by the time I'm old enough to remember, the Depression was just starting to get over.
Yeah.
And then when World War II broke out, or before, people in Michigan especially were gearing up for wartime.
Right.
And so a lot of people left the UP for down into the factories in Detroit. And pretty soon, a lot of the families moved down there to be with the man of the family.
And that was back when they were everybody was coming together to make all the weapons and making everything for the war and just coming together.
Right. It was 1941, January, when we went down. And, of course, to cross the Straits of Mackinac, you had to take the ferry. And for a kid, as young as I was, to go down and get on this great big ship to go across the Straits, that was very impressive. And I loved it.
Oh, I bet.
Of course, sometimes it got pretty bad in the wintertime. They had to use ice cutters and stuff like that. But I never got stuck in the streets, but my grandmother did one day for a couple of days before they got the ship going again.
Dang. I mean, I bet, like, Detroit, I bet it was a lot different back then than it is today.
Well, it was a great big difference to me. They had streetcars and buses and big stores downtown. I was just fascinated with it.
Well, and especially coming from such a small town to such a large city.
That's right.
I bet that was crazy.
And the bus turnaround was within a block and a half of our house. So we could go down the alley and pick up some pop bottles and bring them to the store and get enough money to go for a ride on the streetcar.
Oh, wow.
And we enjoyed doing that quite a bit. Another thing we enjoyed was there was a public swimming pool that we could take a bus and go to that. We really liked that too. We used to love being in the Lake Superior, but it was cold.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. I mean, any lake up in Michigan is pretty much cold.
Yeah, it is.
You just got to wait for it to get warm enough outside so it feels nice.
Yeah, that's right. But, I think that we had a very good childhood. My father worked for the Cliffstow until the wartime stuff came through, and then he quit there and went to Detroit to work he was a welder.
Oh, wow.
So,
So you do like industrial welding?
yes, and he worked a day job, and then he took a night job also welding.
Wow.
So,
Maybe that's where I get it from.
yeah.
Maybe that's why I got into that kind of stuff. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he was pretty well educated. He had 3 years at New York University. When he came home for the summer, he met my mother, and that ended his education. He got married instead.
Dang.
So
She must have been a real winner for him to quit everything. He was like, yep, this is the one. This is it.
yeah,
I'm done.
yeah, that's it. And his father, his stepfather, was a municipal judge.
Oh, wow.
And my grandfather on my mother's side was a railroad engineer.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so
That's crazy because the railroad, that's one of the things we forget about nowadays is how much that was used back then compared to now.
oh yeah, we used to love it. Well, we had to take turns staying at my grandmother's house because we weren't allowed to stay when he was off the road because he had to get his sleep.
Oh, wow. Hey,
So-
that's one way to do it.
Yeah, right. But speaking of my grandmother's house, we loved to go there, and we had holidays. They would have at least three tables set up for everybody for Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner. There were 26 grandchildren, so it
Wow.
made for quite a party.
That's a big family gathering.
Yeah,
Dang.
and everything made
Yeah.
homemade and from scratch.
That's crazy.
We didn't know how good we had it.
Yeah, I guess so. That is true because, like I remember, like when I joined and everything, I didn't, when I went off and I didn't have that home cooked meal or the hot food, it makes a difference. And then when you do come home and you get that good cooking, like for me, I always remember your chicken and dumplings. That was like
Oh.
the dish. So every time you'd make it, I was like, that was one of the dishes that reminded me of home,
And my specialty was making fudge.
Oh yeah, that too. Love fudge. Now, did you get that just like was that like a family recipe or was that like dealing with Mackinac?
That was a family recipe.
Oh, okay.
Now, later on, I always used the Hershey's cocoa, their recipe that was on the can.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah,
It's
oh,
very
yeah.
good.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with chocolate. It's kind of even if it's a little bit off, it's still chocolate.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
It's kind of like, even a bad batch of chocolate's still chocolate, so it's good.
That's right. So,
Worst case scenario is just sloppy chocolate.
right.
That's the good thing about fudge.
After the war, we went back up to the Upper Peninsula. It just seemed so different to go the way and have all the city stuff and then go back up. But we didn't mind because, we always could go to visit my grandmother and,
Yeah.
there was a lot of family there.
So was like after the war and after everything, it was like the jobs kind of dispersed and
Yes.
then it was just going back to business as usual kind of a deal?
Yeah, and things progressed some when the factories got back moving again. I don't remember what. I guess maybe about late 40s that they came out with making cars for the public
Right.
again. And that was a big deal.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I was going to tell you what the name of the one was, but I forgot now.
And it was in the 40s?
Yeah.
Was it like a Studebaker?
Yep. That's
that what it
right.
was?
That was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had some interesting cars back then. They
Yeah.
were all unique.
Like the Edsel.
Yeah.
That didn't go very far.
No. Yeah. And what's interesting too, back then they had the rumble seats in the back?
Well, those were in the 1930s.
Oh, okay.
We had a station wagon,
Oh, wow.
which was, we really thought we were somebody special when we went for riding the station wagon.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
Actually had room to carry everybody.
right.
Because you guys had a big family, right?
6 kids, yeah.
Jeez.
So,
Don't know how you do it. Don't know how people do it. But what's funny is, like, back then it was more common than it is now.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
That's the funny part, because nowadays it's like, you have 3 kids? What? You know?
Yeah, right.
Back then that was just like, what are you waiting for? Where's number 4?
Yeah, right.
Right. You know?
And I remember we did a lot of sleigh riding, sledding.
Oh,
We had
wow.
a big hill nearby, so and skiing. I was never much of a skier.
No.
And ice skating. The city kept about a half a dozen skating rinks open. The fire department went at night and flooded the.
Oh, wow. So that way it would stay thick,
Yeah,
the ice.
it was, and they had a little, like a cabin. You could go in to change your skates
Oh, wow.
and, get out of the wind and everything while you put your,
Almost like an ice fishing shed, kind of.
yeah, only bigger
Yeah.
than that. But I always thought it was great that they came and flooded the rigs for us.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty cool that they would do that just to, make it available to everyone.
Right.
You know.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if they still do that. Do you know? I wonder.
I don't really know.
Yeah. I've not been up in Michigan when it's cold.
Yeah, next time I
Yeah.
next time I talk to the kids, I will ask them if they still do that.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, because that seems like such a simple thing that it would be pretty good to do,
Yeah, yeah. The fire department, they did that in the winter, and in the summertime, they have a lot of flowers parked alongside the highway to the entrance to the town. And the fire department comes along at night and waters all the plants.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, that just gives them a little extra something to do.
Yeah, because I remember when we went to Marquette back, I was probably a lot younger, and I remember, because we would go in the summertime, and I remember specifically, the 4th of July thing that they would do down by the water. I don't know what they would call it, but there was, the playground, and they had, they would, go downtown, and, they'd have the big fireworks show and
Oh, yeah.
everything. I remember a little bit about it, but...
There was always a big parade.
Yeah.
And I always liked parades. Sometimes they make me cry, but I still liked them.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have a boat parade. The boats are all they're all decorated.
See, that would be nice to see.
Yeah, it is. But a lot of small town stuff.
Yeah. Everybody knows everybody.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it was also a college town, so kids went from high school, they could go right to college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And there was a lot of advantages to being from a small town.
Right.
Although I have to say I enjoyed the years I lived in Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Well, and I bet too, because back then it was a lot different than it is today. Today it's a pretty rough city.
Yeah, I
versus,
guess.
I mean, I assume it was probably rough then too, but I mean, probably not to the same level it is now.
Yeah, it gave a lot of people work, and after the Depression, people appreciated that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of other things.
Well, do you remember what it was like in America? So post World War II, everybody's getting back to work. Were people really patriotic? Was it this big America, we're number one kind of a deal, or was it what was the environment like back then?
That was absolutely right. Everybody was very patriotic. We were all out for us,
Just one big team.
And we manufactured the trucks and the buses, everything that we needed. Things were pretty scarce for a while. You had a hard time with rubber, getting, during the war, of course, everything was rationed.
Right.
Including alcohol. So if you know somebody that didn't drink, you traded your ration stamps.
For gas.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, gas was rationed. Shoes, you had a hard time.
Really?
Shoes were
Shoes?
hard to come by.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about shoes.
Yeah. And I could remember coming home from school. I had to go through the downtown area, and I'd stop at the grocery store, and if they happened to have some meat, no matter what it was, ribs, pork chops if you were lucky, and I would pick them up for my mother. She never knew what she was having for dinner till I got home from school.
Dang. I bet she was happy, though, to see it, like, whenever you'd have meat and stuff like that.
Yeah, and butter was a big thing.
Really?
Yeah,
Butter? Huh.
Well, I had a family of really good cooks, and they always used butter, and when it got to where they had to use margarine, they weren't happy.
Oh, yeah. Margarine's not good.
And the margarine was white.
Oh.
You had to color it.
Oh, wow.
It came with a little packet of food coloring that you had to. It was dry,
Oh.
powder, and you had to mix it all up. And
Jeez, that sounds terrible. I wouldn't even want to touch it.
and then a few years later, they came out with a liquid food color.
Oh, wow.
But
Jeez.
we were not happy with having margarine, but it was better than nothing.
Right, yeah.
So
That's crazy. So there was a lack of butter. I wonder why that was. It just...
well, most of the meat and butter and all that went to feed the troops.
Oh, okay.
And
Huh.
so that just, and also, if you were cooking bacon, you saved the fat off of the bacon.
Yeah.
Everybody had a little tin thing on the stove, and then you took that. I don't know where we took it, but for the war effort.
Wow.
Now I don't know what they used it for to this day. Had something to do with.
They probably like rendered it down because you can use pig fat for a bunch of stuff. I think they use it for like gelatin and stuff like that
Yeah.
too. Because I mean, it's good for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we saved it, and my brothers, they had a wagon, and they picked up scrap metal.
Oh wow.
You saved your cans. Everybody was.
So would they like send it away and then would they get reimbursed, or was it like, hey, here's our support, we're just helping out the cause?
No, the scrap metal, my brother used to sell it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But a lot of the stuff, it was that way. You collected it and you donated it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Could you imagine people nowadays doing something like that?
And
Like it just
buying stamps. Well, we used to have a little book, and you could buy the war stamps, and you put the stamps in, and after you collected $18.75 worth, you could get a $25 war bond.
Oh wow.
And that was a big thing at the schools
Dang.
to, save up and help with the war effort by buying. And movie stars, and they would have parades and stuff, and the stars would all be on the floats and encouraging people to buy food stamps and bonds for the war effort.
See, and that's something that I think is missing nowadays. Like, because nowadays you just don't. I think if anybody was asked, like, there's a group of people I think that would support, but nowadays I guarantee you the way that America is today, I don't think you'd see that same kind of reaction.
Yeah, everybody
Like,
pulled together.
I've heard about it, but it's got to be different being that you experienced it,
Yeah.
knowing like how that was. I mean, like for me, the closest thing that I can think to is like after 9/11, how everybody in America was like, you could see a flag on every fence post.
Yeah,
They were
right.
putting the little red cups up, saying they were standing together, and like everything was pro-military, pro-United States.
Right.
Like we're in this together. And
Yes.
people obviously that kind of faded away, but that's like the closest thing I can think of.
I really think that if we got into an emergency, I think it would do it again. But
Yeah.
I really think that people would pull together.
Yeah, at least a majority.
Yeah, right.
You know, because I know that there's a bunch of people out there that would definitely sign up in a heartbeat, you know.
And even in the schools, you know, you could just feel the patriotism.
Right.
That it's well, 1941, I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Ready to turn 11.
I'm surprised you even remember that. I can't remember much from that age. You know, like, I need some of your memory.
Yeah, I do. I do remember a lot. Like, I remember stopping after school and visiting my grandfather, the one that was the judge. And he always had, he had a housekeeper. My grandma was up deceased already. And she always had cookies or donuts or cake or something for us.
Wow.
And my other grandmother, of course, that was where we had to, you know, fight to see whose turn it was to sleep there. Because we just liked to go there.
They were just nice people to be around.
Yeah, right. And they were a card playing, but, well, everybody played games.
Right.
You know, they didn't have TV. You were lucky if you had a radio. And, you know, there was always card games and a lot of reading.
Probably a lot more time spending with people one-on-one and
Right.
actually talking.
I believe you're right about that. And everybody kept up on how the neighbors were doing. And if an elderly person needed to have their sidewalk shoveled or something, you know, there was somebody to do it.
See, and that's good. That's kind of the whole community thing, the way that things used to be. Whereas now it seems like it's a lot different. People are more selfish, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
Just because, and it's not to no fault of their own. I think it's just the way that it's going.
Yeah.
Because people are, you know, more isolated now. It's funny because they say we're more connected because of the phones and internet and everything, but we're actually disconnected.
That's right.
You know.
I feel that way, that we're disconnected.
I mean, think about like how many times you see just walking down the street now, somebody walking around with a cell phone out.
Right.
They can't get out of their car without checking their phones.
I remember I remember the man coming to the house and then putting in a telephone. We thought that was pretty wonderful.
Oh, wow.
So we could call. I still remember my grandma's telephone number. It was 1355.
Wow. So that's like back when you had to call the operator. Hey, can you connect me to so and so?
She would pick up the phone and she'd say, "Number, please."
Wow. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
How long did it take for like a phone call to go through? Would it take longer?
No, it was only maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Wow. See, but even that, it's so funny because nowadays you don't pick up in 3 rings and people are hanging up.
Yeah.
You know, there you are, 2 minutes waiting to talk.
Right.
But I bet it was so interesting being able to be like, I'm talking to somebody that's not in the room with me.
Yeah, and I was not around when they had the cranks on the phone.
Yeah. That's like 1800s, right? Something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Dang.
yeah, I'm trying to think of other things from back then.
Well, what was like a common meal that you guys would have like for dinner? Let's just say like what would be like a typical dinner that you guys would have growing up?
Well, we had stew, chili, and pretty much almost
Like
the same
baked.
as what we're having today.
Yeah. The food that you can cook a lot of for not a lot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was right.
Did you guys make pasties back then too?
Yes, people. My mother did not like making pasties.
No. No. And if anybody's wondering what a pasty is, I'll put a picture up so that way you can see.
Oh, okay. and what's in it?
The meat pie, basically. That's the way I always thought of
It's
it.
meat, potatoes, carrots, onions, and potatoes.
Yeah, and the rutabaga.
Yeah,
Right.
a little bit of rutabaga.
Yeah, I always thought that was a weird, like a cheap version of a potato. It was like the step cousin to the potato. It was like it wanted to be a potato, but it wasn't quite there.
I never liked them, but I would eat them in a pastry.
They remind me of like turnips, kind of.
Well,
you know,
yeah, that's.
It's like a half-assed potato. You know, potato would be like the golden carrot.
Well,
you know,
there's a rutabaga is a cousin to the turnip,
oh, okay, well that makes sense.
and we used them interchangeably. You know, we did.
Yeah.
So, I was the chief babysitter. I babysat for a lot of people as soon as I was old enough.
Oh wow.
And so I always had a little bit of spare change. And usually if I went to a restaurant, I had a piece of pumpkin pie.
Oh man. So pumpkin, that's interesting. Is that like one of your favorites?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
mine's always apple pie.
Well, mine's pretty much apple pie too. And cherry is
Yeah.
up there too. So,
But that's good though.
yeah. And then my mother got pretty good at making a meal out of practically nothing.
Yeah.
You know.
Just working with what you had.
Yeah, you had to make do or do without, you know, a lot of times. But during the war, we lived in Detroit. My dad was working 2 jobs, so there was always. I know one Thanksgiving we had meatloaf because we couldn't get a hold of a chicken or a turkey.
Oh wow.
And so my mother made a meatloaf. She
Hey,
said,
meatloaf's good too.
yeah, just pretend.
Yeah. Just pretend it's turkey.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to do, too.
Yeah.
So, but usually when we had any hardships like that, it was because of the war.
Right.
Yes, so I know the summer of '42, we went from Detroit up to Marquette and stayed at a friend's camp. And that was very generous of this family to let my mother use the camp.
Right.
And so we stayed at camp all week. They brought us in on Saturday. We had to take a bath. Sunday morning we went to church and back up to camp.
Oh wow.
But we loved it. We were on Lake Superior, and then nearby was a river. I don't remember the name of the river, but that water was warmer.
Oh, I bet.
And we all learned to swim when we were young. And that being at that camp was something we all remembered and still talk about.
Wow. And does this camp, like, was it just like a summer camp type deal kind of a thing?
Yeah, it was. Well, it had downstairs. It had a large living room, a family type room.
Right, right.
Ooh, what'd I do?
It's okay. You just hit the arm. It's okay. It'll settle.
And then we had a pretty good sized kitchen, and then everybody slept upstairs. You know, it was just like a big hall, and the beds set up here and there. So, I can remember by Friday, food was running mighty low.
I bet.
And they'd fix whatever. We had a lot of crackers and peanut butter.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. I
Yeah.
miss that. I haven't had that in forever.
And
Wow.
with hot chocolate.
Oh, that would be
Well, of
good.
course, back then we just ordered cocoa.
Yeah.
My mother would make a big pan full of
Hot cocoa.
hot cocoa. And sometimes we even had marshmallows in it.
Oh, wow.
That was a real treat.
Dang.
So,
Can't go wrong with chocolate. That's what I'm saying. You can't, like, chocolate alone. It's good. You can
And
put it in anything and it makes it better.
and we couldn't go and buy ice cream either because you didn't have any way to keep it. When you
that's
bought
true.
ice cream, you had to go home and eat it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Because was that still pre-refrigeration? Like that before people had them at their homes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they I'm sure they had like big ones back then, but it probably wasn't like common for people to have.
No, those were just for businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Dang.
So there was a lot of somebody ought to write a book about that.
Yeah, that's
You know,
interesting.
all the things.
Because weren't you telling me too, like one of the things you do to keep the ice going was like using sawdust
Oh yes, they did.
to like
They-
preserve it?
There was a sawmill nearby, and they used they packed the ice in the sawdust, and they had a pulley system. I don't remember exactly, but when they filled up the bottom of the big ice house, then they had some kind of a system that brought the ice down. These are 50-pound chunks of ice,
Right.
and it would bring it up to the next floor.
Oh, dang.
Then there were, big open doors on the second floor, and they would haul the ice up there because this ice had to last till the next winter.
Jeez.
Yeah,
And it
but-
would stay good just because it was so cold out there?
And it was because of the sawdust.
Oh, wow.
It preserved it.
Jeez.
So, and we were not supposed to go in the ice house.
No.
No, that was a place that was off limits.
Did that stop you?
It did me. My brother used to go.
Yeah.
When the people that worked in the ice house, evidently they drank a lot of pop, and he would go in and gather up the empty bottles to take to the store.
Oh, wow.
And that time they were worth 2 cents a piece.
Jeez. And I bet that was quite a bit back then, too.
Well, if you got 10 of them, you had 20 cents.
Yeah.
So, you could pick them up.
Yeah, because I remember like when we visited, I remember we used to go get in cans, but it was like I think it was like a dime
Yeah,
a can or something like that,
that's right.
which is really good because down here, like in Texas, you can bring them a whole truck full of cans and you get like $1.
I know. They go by
You get
weight.
nothing. That's why we need to do like a business where we just collect the cans here and bring them up to Michigan.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Some people did that.
Oh, I'm sure. I wonder why that is. They give you so much up there compared to down here.
Well, I guess because they had to haul it so far.
Oh, maybe.
So,
Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, there's a lot of things we thought we were missing, but we made up for it in other ways,
Imagination probably came in big.
Yep. Yeah.
That's like the other day when Mom was talking about the game Kick the Can. I was like, wow, an original idea there. That's when you're working with not a lot. Hey, we got a can. Let's make a game out of it. Let's kick it. Here we go.
Yeah.
But that's how, I mean, I remember even as a kid, we would come up with some dumb games just because you just used whatever you had.
Right.
Instead of, I enjoyed like going outside and, hanging out with the friends and playing stupid games. Or like, I remember waiting for it to storm because we liked riding in the, the little drains, like where the water would go down when it would come. And of course, it's stupid because it's lightning and all that. But, as a kid, you're not thinking about that. You're having fun.
I remember when you had a go-kart.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about the go-kart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
We had one thing we had was a flexible flyer, which was a very large,
Whoa.
I did it again,
No, it's okay.
a very large sled. We could
Yeah.
put 3 or 4 kids on it. And we also had oh gosh, no, I can't think of the word.
Was it the
It was a-
skis?
it was
or
a-
like a bobsled?
Bobsled, and
Yeah.
it belonged to my uncle. And that thing was fast.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And we had a hill behind us, and we had a red light up, which meant that the kids had the right of way, cars had to stop.
Jeez.
And when we go down that hill and we'd cross the road, and sometimes we even went further and crossed the railroad track, that those things were really fast. I think my brother was about 12 years old or so when he was first allowed to take us other kids, for a ride on it.
Yeah, I mean, those things are like dirt bikes on the snow.
Yeah,
That's basically what it is.
yeah.
They're fast.
Yeah, they were. I thought they were pretty dangerous. I heard about one kid that went right under a car,
Oh, geez.
and he had some very serious injuries.
The fact that he lived is pretty amazing.
Yeah, right.
I bet it's probably because it was on snow,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, we had the waterworks, we called it, and it's the waterworks that's there now is on the same property. It's right down at the foot of a hill.
Oh, wow.
And it amazes me that it's still that close to where the original one was. And my dad used to go over there after dinner and play cribbage. And my brother and I, we'd always go over and tell your dad it's time to come home. But I think that's where I learned to play cribbage.
Really?
Because when I was over there waiting for my dad, we'd watch them while they finished up the game.
And then you just kind of picked up on the rules.
Yeah. So, and I still play it. If I find somebody that'll play it with me, like your mother.
We'll have to play one of these days. We'll have to do like the double cribbage, you know?
We better start with the single and get
Well,
that
yeah,
down.
yeah. Well, I remember you used to play. It was you, Papa, and my mom and dad used to play a lot.
Yeah.
And that was always funny to watch. Because, you know, I mean, as a kid, it was just, I didn't know much about the game.
15-2, 15-4.
Yeah, I know how to play it now, but yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time I played cribbage.
I always thought it was a very good game for children because they learned so much.
Yeah.
You know, about numbers and being patient, and
Oh, yeah.
it was a good teaching tool. I think your mother had a teacher that had the kids do nothing but play cribbage for a week
Oh, wow.
in her class because she believed that they learned so much.
It's probably good for, especially like when you're first learning math and stuff, like when
Yeah.
you're trying to
It
figure
was
out.
usually around the fourth graders, you know.
Yeah. Like the basic addition, subtraction kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It probably helps with getting you a lot quicker at it. You know.
Math was never my best subject.
Yeah. I was never bad at math, but I never really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like I could always figure it out, but it was not really my thing. It wasn't like, oh man, I can't wait to crunch these numbers.
Yeah. For me, it was reading and writing
Yeah.
and, you know, the English. But you hardly ever hear anybody say that English was one of their favorite, but I liked it.
You like learning it?
And I used to write, what do they call it when you read a book and you make a report on it? Book
report.
Yeah. And I used to have other kids ask me if they could borrow it. I wasn't.
Oh, they were trying to steal your work,
I
huh?
read the book, and you better read the book if you want to.
Yeah. See?
But I was reading before I went to school.
Oh, wow.
I think I learned from my two older sisters.
So did you learn just like through watching and just like what other people were doing, like hands-on?
A lot of that, yes.
See, I wonder if that's kind of also where I get that, because I'm very much like I do better learning if I get a chance to do it versus somebody
Right.
telling me. You could tell me all day till I'm blue in the face, and I'm probably not going to get it.
Yeah, right.
You know?
But I did have trouble with math.
Yeah, math's not fun. I remember I had trouble specifically with algebra. I was like, numbers are hard enough. Why are you introducing letters? You know?
Hey.
It took me a while to figure that one out.
I flunked algebra the first year, and the second year they passed me to get rid of me.
That's funny. Well, what's funny is like I was never good at math, but I always managed to figure it out eventually. And like even in college, I managed to get through calculus. Like,
Oh,
you know, don't ask me about it now because it's like
Right.
whoosh. I'm not using it, but it's just like one of those things where it's just you learn certain things that it's just why do we even need to know this? Like I'm not going to be a scientist or a mathematician, so why do I need to know this?
yeah. Now,
You know.
now we know.
Well, and how often do you know, I think basic arithmetic, basic math, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication,
Yeah.
you use that every day almost, you know, without even knowing that you're using it.
Yeah.
But anything past that, it's kind of like, well, do you really need to know that? Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
do you really need to know that? We have computers now with calculators, and we got all this stuff that we can literally type in Google, hey, what's the answer to this, and we'll get it.
Yeah, right.
So why do we really need to know that if that's not our career path? You know, like, I'm not going to be a scientist.
You need to learn how
You
to
know?
how to think.
Yep, that's true. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Being learning how to think instead of just going with what everybody tells you.
Yeah, right.
Basically, don't be a robot.
Yeah. And of course, we had really good teachers.
Yeah.
You know,
Any in particular you remember?
well, I remember we had two teachers, and they were sisters, Nora and Mary Dacey.
Oh, wow.
and they were very good teachers. And then in the fifth grade, we moved, and I switched over to a Catholic school. And I had a couple of very good, encouraging teachers there. You know, they really helped you if you were having a problem.
Right.
My brother was having a problem in school. I would say now that I know that he had a learning disability. Darn it.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. It happens.
And I would help him with his homework, and he was a year older than me.
Oh, wow.
But with the reading and math, he had a problem. And eventually he was self-taught.
See, that's good. So
Yeah.
you probably helped get him over the hump.
He went to work in Detroit, and he worked himself up with the General Telephone for over 30 years.
Wow.
So it was good, but he had to struggle.
Right.
And this is one thing that I told my kids. I said, you're lucky you could learn easy, but remember there are some people that are not that lucky, and they have to really work hard to learn.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true, especially, I mean, that spreads the gamut, you know. Even something as simple as dyslexia can be a huge issue.
Oh, yes.
You know, wasn't our uncle, didn't he have dyslexia or something like that?
Teddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's
Yeah.
a real tough one.
And I used to work with him after school. Like sometimes I'd say, now, I'll read one page and you read the next page. You know, after school. you know,
Right.
to try to help him along. He still has to struggle with the reading. Like you buy a package of cough medicine and it's got the directions on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, things like that are still hard for him.
Yeah. See, and that stuff can be really, that can really be frustrating for something that simple, you know.
Yeah,
And you just don't
that's
think about it. Like,
right.
it's just not something that you normally would think about.
And people that comes easy, they just don't understand.
Yeah. It's because they're not living with it. They're not dealing with it. It's the same thing with any number of illnesses and whatnot, unless if you're actually, it's that whole saying of like walk a mile in their shoes.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
You can't know unless if you've been there or done that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's definitely a very difficult one, you know?
Well, one thing I got some early instruction at, and I was babysitting from the time I was practically a little girl myself. And it came in handy when I had the 7 kids.
Oh, I bet.
I knew how to give a baby a bath and change them, you know.
Well, because you'd already raised them by the time you had them.
Yeah. So,
You were set.
yeah.
I bet that was crazy. How was that, you know, and that was a different time, raising children. I mean, when was that, like the 50s, 60s era
Yeah.
for you?
Right. No,
Yeah.
Sherry was born in 1949.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
So-
raising kids in the 50s, I bet that was crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't seem to think that it was hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I felt I was meant to be, was a mother.
See, that's good though. Knowing that, I think, comes in handy when you know what you're good at. You know, like, what your thing is.
Yeah,
whether
right.
it is being a mother or whatever.
When I was a little girl and I had a nice buggy, had a baby-sized doll, and I just knew that when I grew up, I wanted to have a bunch of kids, a family. And that's what I did.
And that was pretty, it just came easy to you. Like, it was just,
Yeah.
it's like waking up and breathing in the morning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I had a sister that she had 9 kids, but she was not happy being a mother. She thought she was missing out on things, you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think that comes down to just the person knowing whether or not they should have kids or not. Some people are good with them and some are not.
Yep.
You know?
And then I had another sister that she was a school teacher.
Oh, wow.
She was also an artist. And she never had any kids of her. Well, she never got married.
Right.
But some things you just know.
Yeah.
Like, she knew she wanted to be a teacher. And when she graduated from high school, my grandmother paid her first year of college. And after that, she worked her way through college, the rest of the 3 years.
Right.
But she managed to get through. Like, when I was expecting Billy, and she was giving me a bad time about having another kid, you know. She said, what if he wants to go to college? I said, he'll do like you did. He'll work his way through if he wants to.
There you go. Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
I think that means a lot more whenever, if you have to earn it, it means more to you than if it's just given.
That's the same thing with you give a kid, you let him drive the car. He's not going to take care of it as well as if it was his own car.
Yep, that's true. That's funny, too, because my dad did that, where that's why I had to save up for so long to get my own car.
That's right.
Because it was that's just the way it was. We're not buying you a car. I had, I knew people that, they had money and they would give, their kids a car at 16. That was like a thing. And for me, I was like, what?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
how in the hell? Like, you should not be. Your first car should always be a shit box. It needs to be a piece of crap because that way you can get used to fixing it. You know?
When I was growing up, our family car was a piece of crap.
Yeah. See, that makes a difference.
Talking about the car, one time my sister and I wanted to go to the movie.
Mm.
But of course, after dinner, we always had to do the dishes. Well, we took a big roaster full of dirty dishes and we put them in the car.
Oh, God.
And then we went to the movie, but boy, we got hell for that.
Oh, I bet.
Because we were not very often, what we were expected to do, we did.
Right.
It wasn't very often that we tried to
You just follow the rules.
Get away with something.
Yeah. Well, I bet, too, because it was probably different, too, because you knew the punishment. It was very, nowadays it seems like people are a lot more timid with, beating their kids if they're messing out of line.
Yeah.
What's that old saying? You spare the rod, you spoil the child.
That's right.
I think back then it was a lot more common, like, you don't listen to me, you're going to listen.
Yeah, right.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember being very much like, I'm the boss, you're the child, you do what I say, and that's it.
That's
There's
right.
not a question. And I remember a few times I tried to push that, and I learned real fast that, nope, I am the child, I listen.
I can remember you acting up at a restaurant one time. You were only about 2.
Yeah.
And your dad picked you up and he said, people didn't come here to listen to you, and he took you out to the car. And
I
gave
wish
you a
more
talking
people would do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cute.
Yeah, that's just one example of it. But yeah, I mean that's very true because you're right. Like especially with kids, and even at 2, like I don't personally remember that,
Well, no.
but that's one of those things that it's not just. I'm sure it stuck in my head as a kid, and probably went on past that because I was always the type to, I wanted to. I learned that life was, what was the old saying? Like, you'd attract more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. So I just learned that, hey, sit down, shut up, do what you got to do.
That's right.
And it'll go a lot smoother than trying to fight it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned because I tried to fight it. And then I learned real fast that, you know what, this is just easier if I just do it.
That's right.
It's like, why even try? Just get it done. And you'll be better for it,
One time my brother and I had been swimming, and we were on our way home, and we had to pass a store where my grandma traded. So we went in and we got a bag of fig Newtons.
Oh, wow.
And put them on her account, my grandma.
Of course.
So then after a while we decided, well, what are we going to do with all these fig Newtons? We can't bring them home,
Yeah.
So we decided, well, we'll eat them. You know what fig Newtons do to you?
Yeah, they'll mess you up if you have too many of them.
Well, we learned our lesson that time, I'll tell you.
Oh, I bet. Jeez. I bet that was fun.
Yeah.
Jeez, I can't even imagine. No, thank you.
I can remember, too, when we had scarlet fever.
Oh, really?
We had scarlet fever and measles, and we had one illness, and we're just recovering from it when we got the other. And when you got a house full of kids,
it just goes.
Yeah. And anyway, my mother left a little bottle of Castoria on the kitchen table. And
Oh, no.
Charlie and I shared the bedroom. And the Castoria is pretty good tasting medicine.
Yeah.
So we helped ourselves.
Oh, no.
Oh, there was no telling. You weren't going to deny that you didn't take it because
It was obvious.
it was.
Oh, my God. That is crazy.
Another thing, Charlie had a little lantern. It was an owl. It was about this high. And he had trouble reading. I would say he was dyslexic.
Right.
And so I was reading The Wizard of Oz under the covers, after we went to bed at night. We were supposed to be going to sleep, and
Right.
he's holding that little lantern, and I'm reading. And I read that book twice to him.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, he had a hard time in school. I'll tell you one thing. Before the war started, my dad and my uncle went out, when they first went down to Detroit to get a job, and they took a job in a glass factory, and they made beautiful bowls and glasses, and they were sandblasted with designs on the outside. And my cousin still has one of the glasses.
Oh, wow.
And my dad gave it to her dad. They were pretty good friends. And they worked there until the war broke out, and then they went to a defense job.
Dang.
So, but there's still some pretty nice things that have survived that, but that's from
You still have them somewhere?
Well, Kathleen, I know, had some. My cousin that lives in Marquette.
Wow.
But that was an interesting job. They brought us over there one Sunday to show us what my dad was doing,
Mm-hmm.
And it was both artistic and I'm thinking practical.
Right.
And they came out with some beautiful bowls and glasses and platters and stuff like that.
Wow. And she just sold those. They just sold those.
Yeah.
Wow.
They sold them to the stores.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, in 1941, we were already living in Detroit. And when the war broke out, well, the next week, us kids had a ball. Anything that said made in Japan was in the alley.
Oh, I bet.
And we were, of course, hauling it home by the wagon load.
Yeah, so that would have been, what was that, December 7th, right? So
Yeah.
it would have been December 8th, probably. Everybody's tossing it.
And all kinds of stuff that was made in Japan, and even baby rattles and toys, all kinds of stuff.
Dang. I mean, I can imagine why, though, too. I mean, back then, I mean, that was, like, Pearl Harbor, like, when that hit, that was the thing. They made a big mistake on that day.
Did they have a lot of nerve picking on us?
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, honestly. I think what it was is they wanted to take over that portion of the Pacific.
Yeah.
Because that was very pivotal, and I think
Right.
that's more what they were trying to do.
Right.
But they didn't realize who they were messing with.
Yeah, right.
You know,
that would be a little bit bigger.
Oh.
You know.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's the same thing like with what happened like 9/11. Like they picked on a sleeping giant. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's just one of those things. Like it's different times, but similar how Americans got together during those times.
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting how that happens when there's something like that where we have a common enemy, we all get together and we're
That's
like, all right, let's do this.
Right.
You know, we're like right now we're just sitting and bickering, but it's because we don't really have a common enemy. Like we're
Yeah.
fighting, but everybody forgets. But it's not the same as like, you know, World War II. It was, here's the enemy. This is who we're going
Yeah,
after.
right.
You know.
You wanted to fight? We'll show you how to fight.
Yep. That's it. Yep. It's crazy.
But you know, there were so many things going on in the world at the time, but I didn't realize that they were like, you know, with Germany and different countries
Right.
being unhappy with each other and that. But I didn't realize it until December 7th.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, Apollo.
what you doing? What you doing, boy?
The dog's going crazy. Apollo, come here, buddy.
Well, I think we could.
Yeah,
did enough for
that's
one
pretty
day.
good. I think that was a good amount. I know it can get kind of draining after a while.
Well, I've got a rusty brain. I've been using it a long time.
Yeah, no, but this is good though. I like getting this information out, so that way I won't forget it because we'll have it on camera and we'll have it on tape, and
Yeah.
you know it'll be good to revisit. You
I think you
know,
might mention that I was born November 1st, 1930. So that-
1930. Wow. Hey, so your birthday is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be 89.
Dang, we're gonna have to come up with something for that. Thanks for coming on, Grandma. This was fun.
Well, yeah, I think
had a
so
good time.
too.
We always have a good time talking. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we ever really.
We never run out.
Yeah, we've always got something interesting to say. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what you got, a toy.
Yep. Well, I guess we're gonna get headed out. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll be sure to catch you all on the next one. I believe coming up soon, we're gonna have Austin back on the show. I think possibly Friday. We'll see. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see y'all then. Have a great day.